Welcome back to You Greedy Bastards, where we discuss homelessness and the realities of housing instability. I'm your host, Kimberly DeHenio. Today joining me is my lovely friend, Kristen Cash. She's the senior event planner at the Executive Experience. Say hi.
Hi.
If you don't mind just, telling us a little bit about yourself, your background, what you do, who you are.
Yeah, so as Kim mentioned, my name is Kristen Cash. I'm the senior event planner at the Executive Experience. I have a wide range of event planning experience, and it's ranged into a couple of different areas. So I've worked in a few different education areas and then also nonprofit. So that's kind of where I come into play here today, is that I've worked in the nonprofit homeless space in the past. So have a little bit of experience and knowledge there, and just here to share it.
Nice. So I know you work at the Executive Experience. If you don't mind just telling our audience a little bit about what that company is, what the mission is, and, just the background.
Yeah, so at the Executive Experience, we serve clients by providing media and event services. So people can hire us to plan corporate events or to do any type of media like branding or videography, photography, things like that.
That's fun. Yeah. I think y'all don't do like it's not like birthday parties or like wedding
corporate events like conferences, networking events, things like that.
So kind of like high-end stuff.
Well, yeah, kind of. That's how we like to think of
just
it.
Moving the timeline back a little bit, I know that you've worked in nonprofit before, right? So what was that experience like, and what was your role working in nonprofit?
Yeah, so I did a couple of things in that space. So I worked in operations, and so that's kind of where you get the events mix. And then I also was a community advocate, which meant I was out on the streets actively spending time with people who were homeless.
So when you say like operations, so what did that job entail? Like, what was your day-to-day kind of like?
It was a little bit of everything. So we were a really small team. And so I worked right under the director of operations and kind of helped make our organization flow. So whatever needs we had as far as like, I don't know, getting a new office and furnishing that at the time, or events that came up, admin stuff, budgets, things like that, just kind of all over the place because we were a team of 5.
Yeah, so you definitely wore many different hats in that
exactly.
field.
I was all operations, and then we had a team of 3 advocates who were out constantly.
Oh wow! How many people was in the was in the team?
So when I started 5,
that's small.
And now there's 21 people with that organization.
Wow, they grew.
Yeah,
that's
lot.
Crazy. That's like 4 times the amount.
Yeah, literally.
Love math.
Yes.
So what motivated you into going into nonprofit specifically? Battling homelessness and just kind of, addressing it.
Yeah, so I actually have my own personal background in homelessness. So when I was younger, when I was a child, my family was homeless. And so we grew up in a low income space for most of my life. And then at one point we were homeless and lived in a shelter for a little while. And then eventually we got housing and kind of got back on our feet and just kind of went from there. But that kind of always built this drive and desire in me to want to give back to people in that same space. So it's a hard space to be in.
Of course,
it's traumatic, right? But there's just a lot of good. And I think something that people don't realize is that homeless people are like everybody else.
They're people.
So it's good to like have that experience and be able to now, I guess, build on it.
Yeah. You know what I love about that is, our family went through something similar, and it's very easy to kind of go one way or the other when you experience tribulations like that. You can either kind of, fall back on life and just be like, this sucks, life sucks, and nothing is going to get better, or you can turn around and, go the other way. Make it a positive ending for yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I love that's what you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just kind of bouncing off on your experience at the nonprofit. What were were you able to see any successful initiatives or strategies, either in the workplace, in the organization, or with government that you saw that were effective?
Yeah. So one of the main priorities that we did there that I see also a parallel in what we do at Project PRC
Mm-hmm.
is putting relationships first and putting the people first.
Yes.
So it's so important to care about the people that you are working with, and because if you don't, it's just it's a social work project.
Yeah.
You know, you become a caseworker instead of somebody who actually cares. Not to say that caseworkers don't care. That's absolutely not true, but what we did was focus on building friendships and really getting to know people. And so that really kind of built bonds that helped give people some assistance as they worked through different trauma and kind of dug deep into some of the things that have brought people into homelessness, and then also kept them there. And that was critical to success.
It's kind of like the level of empathy needs to, you know, be there to be successful into, you know, like trying to reach the goal that you're trying to reach. And I've been saying this, you know, since the beginning of our podcast. I think the number one thing that people need to recognize is showing empathy towards not just people that are in these situations, but towards, you know, your community and your people. And it just, you know, shows so much in it, and you can grow so much as a person, as a community leader, you know, just by showing a little bit of understanding and empathy. And I feel like, I don't know if you feel the same way, but I feel like nowadays it almost feels like we're a little bit detached from everything. Like everything feels like not real.
This doesn't belong to me. That's not mine. Yeah, so you stay in your bubble.
Exactly. It's almost like an individual, like, you know, as an individual, you know, you take care of yourself and only yourself. But I feel like if you take care of your community and the people around you, then in turn, you know, it takes care of yourself as well. You know what I mean? Because you're taking care of your environment, the people you're around, and, you know, your community.
Yeah, exactly.
I wanted to ask you if there was, I know that there's a lot of root causes to homelessness and to, you know, being in that situation. What were some of the causes and reasons that you saw?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say one of the big ones was loss. People experiencing loss in their family and with people that they were close to. A lot of times people experience loss, and then that means they've lost support also, and then that catapults them into a space that they weren't expecting. And then you have to deal with that, and sometimes there's just no immediate solution to dealing with that. So then what can you do besides pack up as much as you can when you've been evicted and try to find somewhere to sleep for the night? And so that was a major thing. There were other traumas like abuse and different things that people had experienced in childhood that many people don't fully understand the mental health crises that exist on the streets. There are things that people have experienced when they're younger that come back once you're on the streets, because your fight or flight mode, it's constantly activated, and you're experiencing all these things and kind of being re-traumatized from things that may have happened in your childhood or your early 20s or just way in the past that are now coming back up because you're in a new traumatic situation. So so trauma, abuse, loss, and then a lot of those things oftentimes leads to some level of substance abuse because people are trying to cope or deal, and somebody else coped with their issue by using something, and then they offer that to their friend because their friend is struggling and they want to help them. And so it's just a really hard place to be in, because you see these things that have come up, and you see how one thing that may have been really small to begin with just leads to another thing and leads to another and
snowballs.
another. Yes, exactly. It snowballs and turns into something that's really hard. And people just aren't sure how to get out of that because they don't have support to help them get out of that.
Just kind of going off on that, were you able to see certain, charities or supports within the organization that you worked at maybe that got, homeless individuals back on their feet? Because I know it's not about just, giving somebody a home. It's right. Building that foundation to build sustainability for themselves. Were you able to see, certain services like that maybe?
Yeah, so one of the really beautiful things about our city is that there are a lot of resources out there. you just have to be able to get to them. So there are a lot of organizations that exist that seek to help folks on the streets, and just have services in general for people who may not even be homeless, but they offer them to people who are homeless as well.
Yeah.
And so getting like mental health resources, getting medications that may be needed to address just general health issues. What else? There's a ton of things, even your daily things like food and showering and getting your clothes washed, things that people just don't necessarily think of, but are necessary and vital to everyday life. So those resources exist. It's just a matter of being able to connect folks to them. So thankfully in the space that I was in, I was able to do that. Like I didn't personally have a facility with a washer and dryer where people could go, but I knew of a place down the street that offered their washer and dryers for free to anyone who needed it. So I could pick up my friends that I knew who were on the streets and take them down, take their clothes, and we'd have laundry day. And it was interesting because we got to a point where I started bringing my laundry too, and I was like, we're gonna do laundry together.
All
this
of us.
this isn't just you. This is us doing.
I got
our
laundry to do too.
Exactly. So let's just do it. And it was really a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
One that people offer those resources, and then being able to step into the space with folks as they kind of utilize them.
Yeah, it's crazy how the little things that we do, I feel like we don't really think about it. Like being able to wash your clothes, being able to brush your teeth, and take a shower. I think those are things that we take for granted a lot, and those are, when you're in a situation where you don't really have that opportunity, just small, minute things for us, it makes such a huge difference to somebody else. And I love that you were able to do that with, with the community that you built, letting them wash their clothes to a place, so I really love that. What do you think about, education? And I know that you said you were able to let them know about the washer dryer place because you were aware of it. What do you think about, is there a way, I don't know how to word this, but is there a way that we can better educate, more people in these situations about services and support that they could look for?
Yeah. So I think you just have to be out there to see what people need.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing, because there's no one size fits all in homelessness. So connecting with folks to say like, hey, here I am. I'm Kristen. This is what I know. What's your name? What's going on with you? And then people start to open up. I met a guy just a couple of weeks ago who, at first glance, it seemed like he was really shut down, but I still talked to him and got in the space with him. And thankfully he allowed me in. So that was really nice of him. But we connected for a little bit and just talked about random stuff. And then we circled back and he was like, hey, actually, could you connect me with someone who knows about XYZ? And I was like, yes, absolutely. Because I knew a resource that could fill in. But if I had never talked to him, I would have never known what he needed, right? And sometimes we just go out and we assume like, oh, okay, you look like you need new clothes. But really that person might not need new clothes. They might need a laundry facility or they may need new clothes. You never know. So I think just getting in the space and talking to folks to hear like, hey, what are your needs? And then as we educate ourselves and we make connections ourselves, then we'll know how to move forward and how to aid people as they are in need. No, I love that. I think it's really important, not only for, I think it's important for us to continue staying educated about that, knowing, local support, local areas, and, your area, and just knowing what you can do to better help, you know. Exactly.
What was more of the demographic that you saw? I just kind of want to get into, I wanted to see if it was more women and children, if it was, people of color.
So generally the population you see the most on the streets are men. And then race-wise, it's usually Black men. So that is the largest population of folks on the streets. Black men account for 77%, I believe. That's what it was in 2021. 77% of people on the streets. And that age range is usually about late 50s to 60s that are there, which is tough because that's like grandpa, right?
I
like
know, yeah.
grandpa's out on the streets. So that was a huge population. And then we also had you would see women also in that later age range usually. And then otherwise race was just kind of a mix. It's predominantly black then for Dallas, and then white, and then there was a mix of like Latino and Asian population after that. The Asian population was a little bit lower, but actually recently in the past like year or two there's been a few more people coming out, and so that's interesting. I have no idea why. I don't know what the reasoning is for that, but there has been a little bit of an increase like in the downtown Dallas area.
Yeah, might just be geographical too, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like there's a few gaps in, you know, the services that you know, government is trying to provide. What do you feel like are some gaps that we could step in and fill in for, you know, maybe if government is lacking, you know, if some organizations are lacking, if something we can do to step in?
Yeah, so something that Project PRC is doing right now, I mentioned what I do with the executive experience, but not with Project PRC. So still in that event space, going out and making connections and getting to know people, and then doing small events just to give back to the community. And so that's one of the areas that we've identified as a gap, is there like creating fun and creating opportunities to build community. A lot of times folks are in survival mode, and so if you can give an experience that's just like, hey, let's just have fun, like let's just enjoy each other, let's play dominoes, let's play spades, people appreciate that. And so it seems so minuscule, and I think people would look at it and be like, but you're not changing anything for them.
No, you're making a huge difference.
Yeah, it does make a difference because it helps people feel better. It helps folks have just a better day even, and that can change the trajectory that they were on for that day, you know what I mean? So that's a huge thing that we're doing right now, is providing those opportunities. And it is giving like a fun experience, but we're also feeding and giving water and Gatorade. Right now it's so hot outside, and the number of people who are coming out to the streets to do more and to give like drinks and food has gone down. And so thankfully our organization is able to fill that gap in a little bit. During when it's like fall and spring, more people are out, and in the winter, especially when there's like ice storms and things, it's so different for Texas to have an ice storm. So when it happens, everybody's on alert. They're like, where are the homeless people? I got to get out there, which is awesome. But sometimes in like this heat, nobody really wants to be outside. So that's a gap that we're filling in right now. And I think just I can't really speak for everything that like the government is doing and other organizations, but I know that just helping people like be informed and then mobilize to get where they need to go is super important.
Yeah, I think so too. What is a piece of advice that you would give to up and coming or new nonprofits?
Yeah. So I mean, I feel like it's probably the message that I've communicated the most, but just it's really hard to take action when you don't know what you're taking action for. So as new organizations and new nonprofits are building and deciding kind of the spaces they want to move into and developing a game plan, go be in that space, right? Like if you want to serve the homeless community, then go out to the streets and get to know some folks. Because sometimes we have an idea of what people need, but really it might look different. And sometimes it's just a matter of like, oh, folks need hygiene products. Well, if you come with all full-sized hygiene products, that is probably going to get used twice and then left somewhere. But if you know to buy like the travel size, that's going to get used twice and then it's out. You know what I mean? So, which seems like kind of counterproductive, but you know, hey, this is going to serve its purpose and then it's going to be done. And then there's another one. I'll be back in a week and I'll give another bag out. You know what I mean? So just kind of getting to know folks and knowing what they need, those immediate needs and those long-term, more in-depth needs that are going to help get them off the streets for good.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just kind of, you know, the best way to educate yourself and to learn something is to definitely step in and be in that environment. It's almost like, learning a new language.
Exactly.
If you want to learn about what you're trying to do, if you want to learn about, helping others out, step into that environment, learn about it, be in that environment. Before we wrap things up, is there a message that you want to, put out to our listeners and to people that are watching?
Yeah. So I would just say Project PRC is, like I mentioned, in the space where we're going out to the streets, we're getting to know people, we're doing these small events. They're not huge, they're mini events just to be in the community. And so I would welcome any people who want to come out and volunteer with us or who are interested in what we're doing to connect and kind of get to know what our organization is and what we're doing, because we love having people come out with us. It just helps in building an even larger community. And so come out, be a part of what we have going on at Project PRC.
Thank you so much to our sponsors, Project PRC. I just want to promote the 10 for 10 initiative that we are promoting with Project PRC. It is donating $10 and then telling 10 of your friends to donate $10 as well. Everybody has 10 friends, or at least, somebody that they know, maybe at work, maybe at home, maybe at school. If you just get that word out there to donate just $10, we can definitely make a change. Don't forget to check out the website Project PRC. It's at projectprc.org. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Write a little comment down below. Hit the little bell at the bottom so that you can be notified whenever we come up with a new video. Don't forget to follow our social medias. We have our TikTok, we have our Instagram. It's at Project PRC, and check out our website at projectprc.org. Thank you so much, and we'll see you guys next time.